So how would an indictment look, and how would it affect the race in 2024? Let's bring in Karl Rove, one of the best in the business, or the best in the business, to break down, especially during primary season, who's up and who's down. Karl, how would an indictment affect the overall polls? Because they seem to, in the short term, bolster the former president.
I think that's accurate. Look, I'm with David French on this, the attorney and New York Times columnist who said if you're going to base something on an untested theory of law, better not file the case. Andrew McCarthy, our friend and fellow Fox News contributor, was even more blunt. This is a stupid case. So, if the district attorney moves forward, this is not going to end well for him.
Right.
And in the short run, it's going to help Donald Trump. It's going to cause people to rally around him. It's going to maybe boost his fundraising a little bit. I've gotten a barrage of fundraising messages from him, which suggests that that his campaign has found that this is a useful thing to rally around.
Right.
On the other hand, over the long haul, it's not going to help, because even if he wins the case, and I would suspect he would win the case if they do file one, because it's a complicated case involving federal law, state law.
No, but Karl, even that, you got Georgia, Mar-a-Lago, and everything else. But just in the big picture, the legal problems aren't going to help in the long run, even if they bolster his crowd in the short. I want to bring you to Ron DeSantis this week started taking on the former president. Listen to a little of what he said.
What are the differences between you? I mean, obviously, the approach to COVID was different. I mean, I would have fired somebody like Fauci. I also think just in terms of my approach to leadership, I get personnel in the government who have the agenda of the people and share our agenda. So the way we run the government, I think, is no daily drama, focus on the big picture, and put points on the board.
So right now, as I put in the Monmouth poll as you comment, President's got about a 12-point lead, 20-point in some other polls. How do you feel about Ron DeSantis beginning to hit back?
Well, first of all, I thought it was wise that he counterpunched and didn't punch. President Trump unleashed an attack on him, sent his surrogates out to say, here's a big laundry list, one of which was really sort of bizarre. They said, well, he restricted people on COVID. Well, remember, President Trump was critical of Governor DeSantis when he was one of the first governors in the country to begin to loosen the restrictions. People could come to the beaches, people could go to restaurants and so forth. And I thought he'd get a really powerful counterpunch when he said, I would have fired Fauci, because there was Dr. Fauci alongside President Trump for all of 2020. And then the second thing is he said, I'm a no-drama kind of guy. And what he's setting up is a contrast between himself and the former president, because there are a lot of people who say, you know what, I like what Donald Trump did, but I don't like what we had to put up with. And, the idea, for example, in this current case, that he paid $130,000 in hush money to a porn star, a stripper, in order to hide an alleged affair with her, that doesn't help you in a general election when you're trying to get swing voters.
Right.
And so what he's trying to say is look at me. I'm the governor of Florida who just got reelected by 20 points in what traditionally has been a battleground state, and I did it because I focus on the business. Right. I'm the no-drama governor. But I think it's a good thing. Right.
And Karl, the current president's got 38% approval rating and seems to be heading down. Kamala Harris even worse. Real quick, I don't eliminate Nikki Haley. I don't eliminate Tim Scott, Mike Pompeo, Mike Pence. Do you?
No, it's early. Look, in 2000, George W. Bush, who was the front runner, didn't enter the race until June. I mean, President Trump entered the race unusually early in an attempt to discourage people from running. But look, Ron DeSantis is governor and with a legislature that's meeting for nearly 2 more months. He's got time. So do others. There's plenty of time in the age in which we live with, where social media and the internet have made it easier to raise money and to organize a campaign. Plenty of time for people to get out there. And when Mike Pence issues a book and Mike Pompeo issues a book and go out and talk about that book and travel the country, they're in essence campaigning without being a candidate. Plenty of time for this race to firm up. Early polls don't matter much. Just talk to Rudy Giuliani, the front runner in the Republican nomination in 2008.
It is fun, though, Karl. I love it. And I know you do, too.
It is fun.
Karl, thanks so much. Have a great Saturday night.
You too, buddy.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.